This is the Greg Bedard Patriots Podcast with Nick Cattles.
This episode is brought to you by Prizepicks, largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. Download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prizepicks, run your game. He's Greg. I'm Nick. You know the deal. Greg, let's start with Christian Gonzalez. Sounds like he's ready to go this Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, Vrabel pretty much came out and said that the plan was to ramp him up to be ready to play this weekend. I don't know if we talked about it. I think I mentioned it on Felger and Maz, but my understanding about last week, and it sort of came, if you read between the lines of Gonzalez and Vrabel, my understanding about last week was Gonzalez was a lot closer to playing than many of us believed. And Vrabel basically said it was his decision. He pulled the plug on it. I think the words that people used to me was Christian gave it a really good go. And as far as I understand, there's no issue with him and the team as far as anybody knows. It's just been a problematic injury, and I think it was good to hear Vrabel basically like stick up for Gonzalez a little bit. Gonzalez talked about some of the narratives that he doesn't know where people got this stuff. Basically, the storyline that he might have been withholding his services because he wants to be healthy to get paid after the season. But it looks like it's going to be a go for Gonzalez. I think the only question is how much he's going to play when it comes to Sunday's game.
I never bought into the narratives. I never understood them from the very beginning. You and I talked about this. The idea that he's missing games to make business decisions when the biggest criticism of his game is that he doesn't play in enough games after his rookie season. Just never made sense. The contract negotiation is not going to happen until after this season. People point to Sauce Gardner. Sauce Gardner played. He played last year. He played in almost every game. I think he missed maybe 2, and that's because he got hurt in December. So it wasn't like Sauce Gardner was ducking playing. You could say like maybe he freelanced a little bit and maybe he played it safe from time to time. Sure. But it wasn't I'm missing games. That's a whole different level. So I never bought it. I think we can now throw that away in the garbage and move forward with, let's just hope he stays healthy. Another big story that just happened this morning, Greg, is Robert Kraft selling 8% of the Patriots franchise to equity firm 6th Street, who also owns a percentage of the Celtics, by the way. And I saw a lot of people already saying, why not Tom Brady? How do you sell to 6th Street but not Brady? What say you, Greg Bedard?
So this is a little bit surprising to me in our discussions about possible how come Brady's not a Patriots owner, he's a Raiders owner and all that. Like, my understanding was that the Krafts wanted to keep it all within the family, and that has changed. But really, because the NFL changed the rules about, I think it was last year or within the last year, where they could take investors on, like basically money from investment banks and things like that. So basically what these owners are doing, and I don't think the Patriots are the first one to do it. This is basically an ATM that the Krafts sell, less than 10% of the team. I think it's 8% total. I think there's another guy reportedly, Dean, I don't know his last name, Maroupolis. Some big money.
I was going to say, just call him Dean Rich Guy. Dean Rich Guy's in the house.
Yes. So 8% total that they're selling, and at their valuation, because it's, I think it was valued at like $9 billion total for the franchise. They're going to get, about $1 billion in cash straight into their pockets. So yeah. It's like basically like if you have a house and, you get a line of credit or whatever on your home, but if you sell it down the line, you're just going to pay yourself back. It's basically along those same lines. But the Brady component of all of this, And what's funny is I just a couple of weeks ago I had a lunch with somebody who knows Tom Brady very well and sort of, a lot of like his deals and what he does. And uh let's just say Tom likes to get a lot of things for free or at a very big discount. And even the Raiders deal, I was looking it up. There was one report that Brady, when he bought his stake in the team in the Raiders, they got it at Brady and this guy Tom Wagner, their piece, they valued at the franchise was valued at 3.5 billion, basically half of what it was supposed to be. So these guys got a very big discount. At one time, the NFL, the owners were balking at approving Brady, if people recall this, and it's
Yeah.
because he was getting such a discount. Like the late Jim Irsay had a quote where he said, "If reasonable value says that 10% should be 525 million, you can't pay 175 million." That was the original deal. I think at the end of the day, by the time they approved it, I think it was more like 225 million that Brady and Wagner paid for their piece. So they got a very big discount. The Krafts are not giving any discounts. They got full value on this. They're getting their $1 billion. They're not giving coupons. So that would never be a consideration for Brady.
Yeah, there ain't gonna be any blue light specials for the sale of any percentage of the Patriots. And by the way, yes, other teams are doing this. The Raiders did it. The Giants have recently done it to the Koch family. They sold 10% of their stake, which was a valuation of over I think it was $10 billion or whatever it was. So teams are doing this, and as Greg said, it's pretty much just quick, big, fat money for the owners. So why not do it? You still have the vast majority of control of the team. All right, let's talk about this game.
One thing on that more, people see these valuations from Forbes or whatever and like what these franchises are worth across sports. I mean, that's nice, but it's not like Robert Kraft has $9 billion in his bank account because the Patriots are valued at $9 billion. This is a way that he can get that value, at least some of it, like straight into his pocket. Now, the question is, and I'm sure people are going to run wild one way or the other on this, is what are they going to do with that money? I mean, they're not required to invest it in the club. I'm sure there's some estate planning involved and things like that. I would say we've talked about this in terms of how much money the Krafts have put into the franchise this year. It's been a lot. You could basically say that they've put in, I don't know, I would say easy $500 million into the Patriots, in terms of, they've spent like $320 million in cash on personnel. They had to pay off or continue to pay the last coaching staff. They had to bring in the new coaching staff and pay them. They brought in, some new front office people. They have to pay them. They had the new practice facility that they're building. I'm sure they're going to do something, maybe some tweaks to the stadium with the World Cup coming. So, could this $1 billion, probably half of it is going to go pay off the stuff that I just mentioned. Could this be more of a rainy day fund for this team that has the cap space to do things? It's possible, but I wouldn't hold my breath.
I want to make sure I clarify. I misspoke. So 6th Street is not acquiring 8%. The plan is for Kraft to divest 8%. 6th Street is acquiring 3%. So I just want to make sure that's clear. So 6th Street, the equity firm, is actually acquiring 3% of the franchise. Kraft plans to divest another 5%. So who jumps in to get the other 5%? We'll wait and see. Inquiring minds would love to know, but we will.
It's reportedly Dean Rich Guy.
Okay, Dean Rich Guy.
Who lives in who lives in Boston. He lives in the area.
All right. I wasn't sure if
So
Dean Rich Guy was part of the 6th Street plan or if he's aside from it. So that's the
I
8%.
think he's aside.
All
Yeah.
right. So Dean Rich Guy gets 5%. 6th Street gets 3%. Congratulations to Dean Rich Guy. I'm sure he'll be at games. I'm sure he's already been at games very often. I'm sure he'll be hanging out and having his own special luxury box or whatever the case may be. All right, let's talk about the game coming up on Sunday now. Let's first cover the injury report. We're recording this on Thursday afternoon, early before 1 o'clock. And the Patriots are going to practice inside today because of the rain in the area. But we can tell you that K'Lavon Chaisson, Jared Wilson, both did not practice on Wednesday. Are you hearing anything about either guy right now, Greg?
No. It was a little surprising. I'm more surprised about Jared Wilson. I didn't really recognize anything in the game, and maybe he got rolled up on or something like that. I would say it's concerning. I mean, Chaisson did have the penalties, but he's played good football for this team. He's rushed the passer pretty well. If he's not able to go, I think it would mean probably more time for, an Anthony Jennings, who, after playing really well 2 weeks ago, I did not think he played well this past Sunday.
Yeah.
Keon White got back into it, surprisingly, after not practicing for, a week and having that illness. He had another rough outing. He had one pass rush where I don't know what he was doing. He just completely got stonewalled and he was flailing about. I don't know what is going on with that guy. That guy is just totally lost at this point. But Jared Wilson, I'm going to assume it's not that bad, that he's going to be back at some point. Seems like a pretty durable guy. Lower body injury. He's built well in the lower body. The guy's got a big tuchus. Normally those guys are pretty durable and pretty powerful. If he's not able to go, I would assume it would be Ben Brown, which isn't the worst thing in the world. Caden Wallace actually might be active for once, but we'll see. But a little bit concerning. But I would say as of right now, the Panthers have the worst injury outlook than the Patriots.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second. You could maybe see somebody from the practice squad being elevated on Sunday with the Chaisson injury if he can't go. Of course, names would be Truman Jones. We saw some of him in the preseason. Of course, you have Braden Swinson, who was picked in the draft back in April. It would feel like Jones is ahead of Swinson the last time we knew. Maybe that's no
longer.
Give me
some Truman Jones.
Yeah, so maybe we'll see. Maybe we'll see some Truman Jones on Sunday against the Panthers. But Greg just brought up the Panthers are also banged up. Tet McMillan and Xavier Legette, both guys did not practice for Carolina on Wednesday. Jalen Coker, the reported reason why they were willing to deal Adam Thielen back to Minnesota was because they were pretty high on Jalen Coker. Coker's dealing with a quad injury, so he's not expected to play. Legette has a hamstring issue, so probably unlikely he plays. Tet McMillan is expected to play, according to reports. We'll see if he tracks down that path or not. But needless to say, Carolina dealing with some major injuries offensively, Greg.
Yeah, they've been, dealing with it. Their offensive line is also, a little beat up. It sounded like McMillan talked to reporters yesterday, said he is going to play. That doesn't necessarily mean he's going to play, and he's still got to go through practice during the week. But if he's not able to go, that's a huge loss for the Panthers because, top 10 pick type of guy this year, absolutely, big, physical, strong, ridiculous catch radius, good at the catch point. He's dangerous. He's a handful. And if they can get Legette back as well, you're talking about two, tall physical receivers that you would love to have Gonzalez and Carlton Davis full go against those guys.
Yeah, Legette's been a disappointment so far, but he's, as Greg said, he's a bigger guy, so tough to handle. And with Tet McMillan, you got two of those guys from the outside that can do some damage. And you look at the IR for Carolina, You mentioned the two offensive linemen, Austin Corbett, who is their starting center. He's on the IR. Robert Hunt, who's their starting right guard. He's on the IR. And I already mentioned Jalen Coker, who's on the IR. So right now it's Cade Mays, who's going to be the starting center, and Chandler Zavala, who is the starting right guard. Now, Zavala was a starting right guard who found the bench. Now he's back with Hunt out of the mix. So they've got some difficulties up front as well. So a lot of offensive injuries they've got to deal with. All right, we're going to jump to the game and look at the Carolina offense and whether or not Greg thinks this is a must-win for the Patriots. But first, he'll tell you about Prizepicks.
Prizepicks is the best place to turn your sports knowledge into cash. With millions of members, Prizepicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least two players for a shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prizepicks. On Prizepicks, you can mix and match player projections from different sports. Combine your favorite basketball players with players from baseball, hockey, esports, and much more. Probably golf with the big Ryder Cup this weekend.
That's right.
Prizepicks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. Prizepicks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in quick as 15 minutes. This week, there'll be a special max discount promotion live on the board right now. Jalen Hurts has been discounted to only needing to go for one passing yard during the Eagles-Buccaneers game this Sunday. Just add another player to your lineup, and if your picks hit, you can cash in. Download the Prizepicks app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prizepicks, run your game.
And for those listening, we ask that you subscribe to the podcast, like, and leave a review. For those watching the show on CLNS, go ahead, hit that like button. Subscribe to the Patriots Press Pass YouTube channel where you can find our show and a lot of other great Patriots content. Also, make sure to check on or turn on those notifications so you can check the instant a new video drops. And speaking of checking, check out BSJ, $50 for the year. Bedard Giardi tag teaming the Patriots with film and the best sources around. It's week 4. I'm not going to go with the whole must-win thing on a for a week 4 game, but how critical is this game, Greg, for the Patriots?
I would say extremely critical. I mean, look, I agree with you for the most part. I mean, even if they lost this game and they go to Buffalo and they lose and they're 1-4, there's still plenty of opportunity with the schedule to do some things. Now, in terms of mass hysteria around here and having to endure probably 2 weeks of the sky is falling, Mike Vrabel isn't any good, Gerard Mayo was just as good as like all that stuff, then it's absolutely critical. Like if you don't want the noise, then they have to win this game because 2-2 going to Buffalo looks a lot better than 1-3. And I do think in terms of the Patriots are at home, they have stunk at home. They don't have a home. They're 0-2 at home to start the season. If they lose at home again to a Panthers team that a lot of people don't think highly of, I would disagree with that. And I think this is a pretty spunky outfit that they're going to be going up against. I do not think this is going to be an easy game. I am going to end up picking the Patriots, but this is not going to be easy. I mean, they just shut out the Falcons 30-0. And while the Falcons played horrible, Michael Penix played horrible, and the Falcons are firing and moving around all sorts of people on their offense. I mean, you put up a donut in the NFL, especially in your own division. That's pretty impressive because those teams know each other so well. But as far as the Patriots, on paper, I would say with what they want to accomplish, is this a must win? No, they could still do some things. After Buffalo, you have the Saints, the Titans, the Browns, the Falcons. All right, yeah, you got the Bucks, but then you got the Jets, and you got the Joe Burrow-less Bengals, and you got the Giants. So there's plenty of opportunity. I mean, even if they start 1-4, they can go on a run and get to 500 and get over 500 if they continue to get better.
Yeah.
But it would make things a lot easier if they win this game.
Especially coming off that Pittsburgh game. You know, how excruciating that game was. You should have won that game. You dominated the vast majority of that game. The 5 turnovers, you're just kicking yourself in the ass. You feel like you got to have a strong follow-up to that thing. Like you got a chance to be, home for 2 straight weeks, and you just feel like the team needs to respond. And after a sloppy, undisciplined game like that, from the offense, from your running backs, and a little bit from May, you just want to see that response. And I think a lot of people would feel better if we saw a game on Sunday where the team played relatively clean and made you feel like, okay, the Pittsburgh thing was kind of an anomaly. They didn't play great disciplined football before with the penalties and stuff, but at least they cleaned up the turnovers and they're not an outright mess. And we can kind of chalk up week 3 to, almost a blip. I think that would make people feel a lot better. If you go out on Sunday and you play miserable against the Panthers again, then I do think it's kind of an avalanche of, here we go. And people are going to look back and say, if Achane didn't step out of bounds, you should be, 0-4 going into Buffalo for a primetime game. And then that kind of picks up steam. All right. Offensively from Carolina, Greg, what do you see?
So, a lot of it has to do with their health that we talked about on the outside. I mean, Leggett has underachieved since he's been in the league. It would be nice to get him back. I might be surprised if he's back. They really need Tet McMillan. It's not a very good offense. I mean, I wouldn't say it's horrible or anything. As far as DVOA goes, they are 30th in offense. For comparison's sake, the Patriots are 17th. So the Panthers are 30th in DVOA, offensive overall. Pass is 29th. Rushing is 25th. Dave Canales is the head coach. He rose to fame with Baker Mayfield and the Bucs as their offensive coordinator. I like the scheme's good. The scheme's solid. He will have a few, scripted, schemed up plays that'll get guys open. I would say the biggest problem with this team is the interior offensive line is not good. I do like the 2 tackles, Ekwonu and Moten. They're both solid. I wouldn't say they're spectacular, but solid. I would say the interior, especially, so they've had some injury issues. Like, I don't know. I don't think Damian Lewis, the left guard, played last week. I think it was this guy, Nick Samak, number 60, who played there. Cade Mays is the center. The guy that you mentioned earlier, Chandler Zavala at right guard, that dude is horrible. He is not good. I would be putting everything right through there. So could be a big game for, Christian Barmore, Williams. I'd like to see, it would be nice to see Christian Barmore break out. He's had his moments this year, but he's been pretty underwhelming, pretty quiet to this point. He pops every now and again, and I don't think he's playing poorly. He just hasn't been close to dominating, and it'd be nice for him to get going, and this might be a really good matchup for him to do that. Like I said, the receivers, I like. Tet McMillan is good. They have Hunter Renfrow off the scrap heap to help them out. I mean, he's all right. He's nothing great. The tight end, Sanders, has had injury issues. Tommy Tremble's a good, solid number 2 tight end. He'll make a few plays, but he's not dynamic. He's good and solid. Chuba Hubbard, the running back, I think he's really good. He's tough. He can do everything. Pretty good vision. And then you have, Bryce Young at quarterback. And I think, watching the game against the Falcons, he looks pretty comfortable with, what he's doing. The offensive line, like I said, is kind of shaky and doesn't give him a whole lot of time. His height is an issue. He's 5'11", batted balls, things like that. He'll also run around a little bit. And so you're going to have to take care of his legs and not, let him get outside the pocket, which he wants to do with his height, but it's not as bad as, say, like a Kyler Murray or somebody like that. He does basically play from the pocket. But, this team in general, Nick, and it's going to go for the defense as well. They're a good, solid team. They just don't have a ton of high end talent, especially on offense. But they're pretty disciplined. They do what they do. They do it pretty well. It's not the most complicated thing, but they're not going to beat themselves. And so the Patriots are going to have to go out there and take the football away.
Not a ton of explosiveness on this offense, which is why Tet McMillan is so important to the operation. By the way, Jatavion Sanders is going to be out this week. He has, it sounds like a high ankle sprain. So he's not going to play. It'll be my guy from Notre Dame, Mitchell Evans. Yeah, baby. Along with Tommy Tremble at tight end. So they're just, they're lacking explosive elements. I agree with you. Hubbard's good. I know Rico Dowdle, the numbers don't look great so far this year with the whole rushing yards over expected stuff. But I thought he looked pretty decent against Atlanta last weekend. And if you go back to 2024, some of those analytics are good to Rico Dowdle. So I think you got to watch out with, Chuba and Rico in that backfield. How about those names? It sounds like a 1970s cop show, Rico and Chuba. But you gotta make sure that you limit those guys. But yeah, the lack of explosiveness stands out to me. All right, before we get to the Panthers defense, don't forget about CLNS's media network, Celtics All Access, behind the scenes content, the NBA History Channel, Bruins Rinkside, and more. Defensively, what do you got for us for Carolina?
So this unit's pretty good. It's the best. I would say it's the best defense that the Patriots have seen so far, and DVOA sort of backs that up. They are, according to DVOA, they are 15th in the league overall. They are 11th against the pass. They are 19th against the rush. I like the scheme. The defensive coordinator is I'm going to butcher his name. It is a hero, Evero, who, if people remember, he sort of rose to fame with the Denver Broncos.
Yeah.
He was there when Nate Hackett was the head coach, and he actually had the opportunity to become the interim head coach, and he turned them down. When Sean Payton came in, he was let go. Canales brought him in. I also want to say, was he with the Bucks at one point? Did him and Canales? But whatever. He's an up and coming defensive guy. Like, he's been on the radar for a while, and I would say his scheme's pretty good. I would say it's not overly aggressive, but just like their offense, they're good at what they do, and they will mix in blitzes. They will be aggressive at times. They do have some interesting coverages where they'll show one thing before the snap and they'll drop into something else.
Yeah.
And there's some high-end talent on this defense. We could start with Derek Brown, number 95, who was the 7th overall pick in 2020. He was
dude's a beast.
He's 6'5", 320. What was I going to say about him? He missed last year all but one game, I think, with an injury. 2023, he was, in the All-Pro, Pro Bowl conversation. But if anybody follows me on X, they saw I watching the film. He had a couple reps against Chris Lindstrom, who is a reigning 3-time second-team All-Pro guard. And Derek Brown, on a couple of reps, just took Chris Lindstrom and basically flung him. I haven't seen too many defensive linemen play with the strength that he does. Now, he's not, I wouldn't say he's dominating, and he doesn't do it all the time. He's more known for his run defense than he is actually getting after the quarterback. But he's a problem. I mean, you have to account for him. And, he's likely going to be going up against Michael Wenu, who is not off to the strongest start. Now, he is a strong guy and heavier than Chris Lindstrom. So maybe he can hold up a little bit better, but they're going to have to account for him. Scorton is a rookie, number 11, 6'4", 285 out of Texas A&M. He's all right. He's pretty stiff. Not hugely impressive. I don't think he's going to do much in this game. Wanham on the other side is all right. J.C. Horn is still an elite corner. I really like their corners. Mike Jackson.
Yeah.
Who was that? The Mike Jackson who was here at one point? I think it is. Solid player. The slot guy, Smith Wade, had a pick 6 against Michael Penix. At safety, Trevor Morig, who I watched a lot with the Raiders. He was with McDaniels out there. I was not a fan of him with the Raiders, but man, he shows up on film, especially blitzing. He comes at you in a hurry. He is fast. He makes plays. He'll play at the linebacker position, and they play a lot of base and nickel. They don't play a ton of dime, but they do. But similar to last week, the Panthers linebackers are not great, especially number 56, Rosaboom.
Yeah.
He
stinks in
slow.
coverage.
Yeah, he stinks. He's like that number 41 Peyton Smith or whatever for the Steelers last week.
Wilson.
Very similar. Peyton Wilson, is that his name?
Yes.
Yeah.
You caught me muting my mic and about to get a sip of water. Yes, it's Peyton Wilson.
Okay. But yeah, he stinks. He's their Christian Ellis. And but this is a very good, solid scheme. They will catch you on some blitzes. They will catch you on some coverages. They got some high-end talent that you need to take care of. So this is not going to be some walk in the park. Like I felt much better about the Patriots' chances to do stuff offensively against the Steelers, which they did, than I do about them against the Panthers.
All right, so let's fact check Greg. Evero was with Tampa from 2007 to 2009 as a defensive quality control coach. He did not cross paths with Canales in Tampa. Mike Jackson, is indeed the corner that was with the Patriots back in 2020. So right on both accounts there. If you look at what teams do against Carolina's defense, they run outside the tackles a lot. And so, it'll be interesting to see how many times McDaniels will call for, tosses and pitches and some of the speed option that we saw once or twice this season. How much of that will be part of the run game plan on Sunday? They have not been good against tight ends. This can be another good or really good Hunter Henry game. If Hunter is healthy, he practiced on Wednesday, so it seems like he is healthy. But I think the tight ends could do some damage against this defense. And they don't get to the quarterback a lot. They do, and they don't blitz a lot. So it'll be an interesting challenge for Drake May because, again, as Greg mentioned, pre-snap versus post-snap, they do play some of those games in coverage. And Michael Penix, it was a combination of, what Carolina did that confused Penix last weekend, and Penix also sucked out loud. That's one of the worst quarterback games I've seen in quite some time. The pick 6 he threw was indescribably bad. It reminded me somewhat of the Mac Jones pick 6 in Dallas when he just like the cornerback saw it coming from like a mile away and was just like licking his chops going, "Oh yeah, baby, let's do this." Penix just floated out there towards the boundary. And it was just absolutely awful. So there is some of that to take into account. I want to ask you a quick question about the offense, Greg. Would you play Kyle Williams more, and would you activate Efton Chism this weekend?
That's a good question.
My answer, by the way, is yes and yes.
So the only thing I'm worried about with the Kyle Williams component, as far as playing him more, is, these are, veteran corners, veteran safeties. I'm more worried this week about them executing properly, which I'm just worried. I'm not sure Kyle Williams is there yet, even though he's doing fine. I think he's making progress. I think he will earn more of a role as we're going forward. I don't know against this defense and like J.C. Horn if that's the best thing, but I do think that from seeing Efton Chism this summer, the preseason and the practices, I was very impressed with his, ability to function in this offense. And I think that Demario Douglas, with some of his route issues last week, in addition to the fourth down play, I think he needs to sit for a bit. So I would activate Efton Chism. I would sit Demario Douglas. I would also sit Ramondre Stevenson in this game. And I think those guys need a mental break and see where we go from there. So I am a yes on Chism. I'm a no on more Kyle Williams, at least for this week.
I'd give Kyle Williams 5 to 10 more snaps. Just see if he can bring some of that explosiveness to your offense. By the way, they have called some shots downfield. It's just been a combination of things, right? The 2 tight end sets they've been playing a lot of. And also, you got to have to be able to block it up front. You got to make sure that you're executing up front, because some of those shots downfield are long developing plays. So it's not like people are saying, oh, man, they won't throw the ball down the field. It's not as if Josh McDaniels is going into games going, we're not going to try to throw the football down the field. There are elements, certainly, of the offense that show that. It's just, it happens where, all right, a deep shot was called, but good coverage. A deep shot was called, offensive line breakdown, or your running back doesn't pick up the blitz and your pass protection falls apart. Deep shot called, and maybe Drake May takes the underneath option instead of, going downfield. So it's not as easy as, well, they don't have any plays downfield, and that means they're not calling plays downfield. That's not necessarily how it works. Before we get to your pick, Greg, special teams. Mike Vrabel said he spent 2 hours watching. This kind of a humble brag, by the way, football nerd style from Vrabel. By the way, I watched 2 hours of the kickoff coverage, but he watched 2 hours of the kickoff coverage. And Jeremy Springer's at the podium right now as we record this. And he just told the media that the Panthers kickoffs are similar to knuckleballs. It's tough for returners to track.
Yep.
What'd you see?
So get ready for a lot of dirty ball talk.
Yeah, okay, baby.
Dirty ball, dirty kickoff. Like, you're going to hear this like for the next 2 days, probably during the telecast. What's interesting, and credit to Chris Price for asking this question yesterday that got Vrabel to say this, because, earlier I had watched the Panthers film against the Falcons. And, normally I skip over special teams, like, who the hell cares? But I think it was after the pick six or something. And this is basically what I do is I bookmark a bunch of plays, and then I'll come back in the next couple of days and sort of go over them, some, unique things that I see about the Panthers, stuff that the Patriots might be able to exploit. And I happened to linger on a kickoff, and I swear to God, Nick, it made me sit up in my chair. I was like, holy crap. Like, because these guys, now I don't know if it's also their punt coverage, but their kickoff coverage, they have like 5 guys who freaking fly down the field and are on top of the kick returner in like no time. I've never seen anything like it. I had to rewind it like 3 times. I was like, Mike Vrabel did 2 hours. All right, so I did like 5 minutes. But that's a lot. That's like the equivalent of 2 hours for me watching special teams. But yeah, this is a problem. And then you also have the kicker, who the reason that they're saying dirty kicks is now one of the techniques that you're trying to do, or teams are fooling with, are you want to kick sort of a knuckleball, like a low line drive. And I think this Borregales tried to do this. And he's toyed with it. He tried to do it, I think, on the Dolphins kickoff, which didn't reach the landing zone. So what you're trying to do is like hit like a line drive, like a knuckleball that just goes over the 20 and bounces. And now the guy can't field it cleanly. Now you have a chance to tackle him inside the 25 or 20, what have you. And so I saw at least twice the Falcons couldn't handle the kickoff, and they were down to like, I don't know, the 12-yard line. Or tackled at like the 12-yard line, because you combine the kick and not being able to field it cleanly with this kick coverage unit, which is just unbelievable. The Patriots are going to have to be on top of what they're doing on special teams, or we could get a big play that sort of swings the game.
Yeah, it's funny. I was watching the game, and again, I'm not paying attention to like flight of the ball. I was just watching the Falcons, and I had tweeted when I was watching the game. earlier this week. I said the Falcons special teams return game was the worst I've seen from an NFL team in a long time. Blooper reel all day. If you just go back and watch the attempted returns, I mean, it is a hell of a time for those guys. The ball's bouncing by them. They're like they're trying to play short hops. It's a disaster. But I will say they also, I believe, muffed the punt. So they also were kind of a mess. They were a mess from Atlanta's side too. All right. Before we get to the pick, I remind you, Prizepicks, download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Greg and I are 1-2 straight up and against the spread. I do my pick on the Locked On Patriots podcast. We had a similar pick last week, which tends to happen with us against the Steelers. We should be 2-1 if the Patriots didn't turn the ball over 5 freaking times, but I digress. This game opened up Patriots -3.5. It's up to 5.5 in most places. The over-under has gone from 45.5 to 43. What is your initial, this is way too early, Nick, Thursday pick?
So I'm going with the Patriots just because I have a hard time seeing them go 1-3 and then 1-4 going to Buffalo. I just can't see it. So I do think this is a week. I think the path to victory for the Patriots is the offense just needs to take care of the ball, which we know is a tough chore for this group. Get what they can, be methodical, just be careful of this Panthers defense because they can make some plays that can swing the game. So I'm really looking for the defense to build off what we saw last week for the most part and getting Christian Gonzalez back. Hopefully we actually see a good defensive game plan this week and not a, fourth straight whiff in terms of what they decide to do, with their calls and blitzes and all that stuff. So hopefully the Patriots, I'm looking for the defense to establish themselves. They did a nice job for the most part after the first 2 drives, after the first quarter against the Steelers. Against not a very good offense. I would say this offense is a little bit better than the Steelers, but not a ton. And so, I like the Patriots in this game. I think, Patriots by probably 7, but this is going to be a tough game. This is not going to be, they're going to have to go win this game. And because this is not a Panthers team that's going to play dumb football. So the Patriots have to be on their game. They can't beat themselves again because if they do, the Panthers are going to beat them.
No score? Just 7 right now?
Just 7 right now.
All right.
I mean, probably.
It's okay. Don't feel pressure.
24-17, something like that.
All right. He's Greg. I'm Nick. We'll be back early next week live on YouTube at 12:15 to react to Panthers Patriots. Until then, everybody be well and enjoy your weekend.